Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our January 2026 SABR Games and Simulations meeting. This evening, we've got Brian Davis with us. He is the inventor of FastScore Baseball, and he's going to share a presentation with us, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. We can do a little bit of an interactive participation today. So if you have questions along the way, please feel free to either unmute yourself, or if you want to throw it in the chat, that's also fine as well. So, all right, without any further ado, Brian, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Derek, and thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. As I get my slides up, when I was younger, I actually contributed to a SABR publication. I don't remember what it was called, and but I actually did some library research back in the days of microfiche.
Okay.
And dug up some minor league baseball data back when I lived in Binghamton, New York.
Okay.
And I did it for a book about minor leagues. It was published probably around 1991, 1992. And there's a list of the people who contributed, and my name is there. So it's pretty cool, actually, that I was able to participate that way. So
they still have a team up that way? I know it used to be a Mets affiliate for quite a while, right?
They still have. So it used to be called the Binghamton Mets. Now it's still affiliated with the Mets, still AA. But it's called the Rumble Ponies. Every minor league team now has a funny name, right?
Yes.
So these are the Rumble Ponies.
Gotcha.
Yeah. My daughter's actually still out in Binghamton now. And from her apartment, you could actually see the fireworks from every Rumble Ponies game.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. All right, let me share my screen. I'm going to start with some slides. Okay, so hopefully you can see the PowerPoint. As I was telling Derek, with Zoom, I can't see anybody's face when I'm presenting. So just speak up if you have any questions. Happy to answer anything in real time. You don't have to wait till the end. Do you see this thing at the bottom? It says app Zoom is sharing your screen.
I do see that. Yeah, I guess you can hide that message. I haven't seen that one before. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So again, my name is Brian Davis. I've been an avid baseball fan for a long time, since I was a very young kid, and started playing sports games probably in the around 1980 or so. So I've been interested in this hobby for now over 40 years, right? 46 years going back. Wow. Hard to believe how fast time goes. So, I start off, who are you? How do you get in here? I don't know if anybody remembers Police Squad, but it's one of my favorite jokes in Police Squad. The joke was that a guy was a locksmith, and he got inside of a building that they were surprised that he got in. So they asked, "Who are you, and how'd you get in here?" And the answer was, "I'm a locksmith, and I'm a locksmith." So just my goofy sense of humor showing through here. But so I wanted to do a quick introduction of who I am, talk a little bit about my background in sports gaming and game design as well, specifically talking about a game that I created probably over 20 years ago now, called FastScore Baseball. And wanted to debut something that is brand new, hot off the press. Not available yet, but will be available in a couple of weeks for people who like to track their standings and some data when they do replays. And I call that a standings tracker. So I'll show a live demo of that standings tracker. So in real life, I'm a research scientist. I've been 30 plus years doing biotechnology, focusing on things including cancer research and gene therapy. some of the things that I worked on actually got into people. So phase 2 clinical trials with some of the things that I've helped to develop, which is, probably the most important thing in my life, which is making sure that I'm, helping people in some way. And so fortunate that some people, especially, I worked at a company who was doing HIV gene therapy, and I know that ended up in a few dozen people and potentially saved their lives. So that's pretty exciting that your life's work actually has that kind of impact on the world. Um, I have been married to my beautiful wife for almost 30 years. I have two grown kids, one in college, one that graduated last year. Um, and fortunate enough, I was able to see both of them over the Christmas break. My hobbies have changed over the years. As I get older, I can't do as many of the more athletic things, but I'm still into hiking. I live up in upstate New York near Albany, so we're close to the Adirondacks. I do a lot of hiking, kayaking. I enjoy disc golf. And I've played guitar all my life since I was a teenager and do a lot of songwriting. I was actually in a band, back in the 2000s, and we have an album, and so it's pretty cool that I have so many facets of my life, right? But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. What I'm going to talk about today is sports gaming. Um, like I said, I kind of started out in around 1980 with APBA baseball. Um, I played the heck out of the 1980 set, the 1978 set, 83, OFAS, if you remember OFAS. And I also had the old World Series set that had like 1912 all the way up to 1952, like six different World Series teams. Um, I played the heck out of those games when I was a kid. And really, about 1986 is when, the kind of that spark arrived that I wanted to start creating, right? So I homebrewed some World Series cards so I could play with my friends. Um, I was the Red Sox. My other friend was the Mets. um, and that was kind of what kind of led me to more things in the future, that kind of input. But obviously, you get older and you're no longer a kid. You start to think about, you know, college years and things like that, and you kind of get away from that. What brought me back was moving to Cleveland. I lived in Cleveland during the Indians' big run from '94 to '99, and so that really rekindled my interest in sports games. And I, went back to APBA for a while, um, made some cards, and made new friends and showed them APBA baseball. And so we'd be at work and play APBA baseball and things like that at work. Um, but it was around the year 2000 that I was introduced to Replay Baseball. And that's really where I think my sim games rebirth occurred. Um, it was really through Pete Ventura at Replay Baseball who kind of got me really interested in making games and making utilities. Um, Pete was a great guy. I met him quite a few times. He used to come to where I lived in Gaithersburg, Maryland, for his woodworking stuff that he did. I got to play some replay games with him, and we hit it off really well. I ended up being a contract for him. I made spreadsheets that probably sped up his ability to make replay baseball cards. And so we spent maybe 6 months back and forth talking about how to make replay more accurate. It's around then when the 6x6 replay cards came out, and I helped format all that for him. So it was a really good relationship. I'm still a good friend with Pete Ventura. I still really appreciate everything he does. And in fact, he hosted FastScore on his website for quite a while. Um, a year or two after that, I started making some websites too, um, that contained APBA and Replay add-ons. So these are like helpers. I had a way Excel spreadsheet that would automatically find uh, things on the boards, so you didn't have to. Remember, APBA had these giant boards. You didn't have to flip them all the time because it was just on a spreadsheet. Um, and so I think these websites might still exist. I haven't really looked at them for 10 years or more. But it was on old Angel Fire and tripod hosting services. They might still be around, and I think those utilities are still available for download. Um, and then, so right around 2003 or so, uh, I was reached out by APA. Um, Mark Rinaldi was the president of APA at the time, and they basically asked me to help them format their football and hockey sets for a few years. I made their XC cards formatted for a few years. So if you ever had the perforated XC cards, that was probably off of my computer. Um, and I also made some fan created sets for minor league, Negro League, the girls' professional baseball league, and senior league that were sold by APA for a while. And then when Mark stepped aside and John Herson picked up, he decided he didn't want any perforated cards, any of these fan created cards anymore. So they disappeared off the website. But yeah, for a few years, those sets were available on their website. So uh, game design for me, um, I've always been interested in games. I mean, I made sports games, fantasy games, children's games, um, and uh, these are things that I basically have shared with just a few people. But as I get older, my kids have encouraged me maybe to actually get them out there, and so I'm still working a full-time job, but I figure as I get more time, some of these games will get out there. Um, but for the sports games, my design philosophy has always been make it as simple and accurate as possible. I know I've played games. I love play-by-play games like Replay. You know, I like Deep Drive. I like uh, Payoff Pitch. I mean, these are the kinds of games that I find easy to play. They come to mind. I don't really struggle with them, but some games I've picked up and it was just for me a slog to get through them. And after a long day at work, I don't want to have to think to play a game. I just want to enjoy it. So my design philosophy has always been make it enjoyable, make it simple, make it something that you don't really have to think very hard to play. And that's kind of where FastScore came in. So Dave Morris, back in the 90s, created something called Fast Play. Fast Play was basically you compare the win-loss of two different teams and you create a likelihood that one team would beat another team. Replay still uses it in their sets. They call it instant replay. But it's the same thing that Dave Morris created. Um, and so I remember, I guess I chatted with Dave back in the 2000s. I still talk with Dave. He lives maybe 20 minutes from me right now. Um, and I said, well, we could probably do it a little bit better, where you just don't find the winner of the game. What if you got a score? What if the game uh, gave you the score and the winning team all within like a couple rolls of the dice? And so that was really kind of the impetus for creating fast score games, a quick play game. So I actually put rudimentary baseball, football, basketball, and hockey games up about 2003, 2004 on some shared website. I can't remember exactly where it was. Um, and then really started to continue to develop the baseball game in a lot of detail. And so that eventually ended up on the Replay site. And I'll walk through what FastScore Baseball is and how you play it on the next couple slides. I just wanted to say that I did create a new website called FastScore Games. It's fastscoregames.com. I put that website up less than a year ago. I've populated it with something like 75 seasons of FastScore Baseball. There's football. I'm adding more things to the website over the next couple of years. But really, the goal for all of my games in the short term is like a 5 to 10 minute playtime with some player stats included. And in some games, a meaningful decision where you're not just rolling dice to see what happens, but you decide something that influences the outcome of the game. So I'll go into the game FastScore Baseball and show you what it is, how we play it, spend a little bit of time. And of course, please just speak up if you have any questions or any comments. So FastScore Baseball is on the website, fastscoregames.com. It's a season replay game. It's not a play-by-play game. Really what this is can you play out an entire season of baseball and do it pretty quickly? So you're not playing a 15 to 45 minutes each game to finish a season replay, which is pretty tough for most people. I don't think most people have that time. This is a game where basically a single die roll or a couple dice rolls will resolve the outcome of the game. I sell it as PDFs on my website. All seasons from 1950 to 2025 are currently available, and I have 7 pre-1950 seasons available. I'm going to be adding more pre-1950 seasons as time goes on. All of these are available as an individual season. But if you're interested in a favorite decade like 1970s or 1980s, you can get the entire decade for a much lower price than if you just purchased each season individually. In this game, it's a team-based game, not a player-based game. The teams are rated for offense, defense, and what I call the clutch rating, which is really just the Pythagorean wins versus actual wins. So if people remember what a Pythagorean win is, it's basically based on runs for versus runs against, and the expected win-loss based on the runs scored, runs against. But, teams sometimes they oftentimes don't match that Pythagorean wins. So when you're designing a game for based off of score, you sometimes have to adjust up the wins for a team that didn't score as much, or adjust down the wins for teams that maybe needed to didn't want to get too many wins in based on their runs scored. So we do have that adjustment in the game. But where this game is really unique, I think, is it's not just a team offense defense rating. I wanted to create something where the starting pitchers could influence the team defense rating, because you're playing a season and you don't want, the Yankees always to be rated 5 on offense and 3 on defense every single game. It doesn't make sense. If they've got a good pitcher or a bad pitcher, their chance of winning should be different, right? It should be harder to win with a bad pitcher. And so now what I've got is starting pitchers get their own ratings that change the team defense and actually does make it harder to win if you've got a worse pitcher, and easier to win if you've got a better pitcher on the mound. Each season that it's available includes the as plays schedule with the starting pitchers included, and all ratings are pre-calculated in that schedule. So all you have to do is pick up and play the game. I know a lot of these quick play games, they give you a rating, and before every game, you got to do some quick math and add things together. I didn't want to have that in this game. I wanted to have something where you could just look at the schedule, play out the games. You don't have to do the math. You could just have fun. So basically, how to play FastScore Baseball is pretty simple. If you look at the left column here, I've got a list of teams for the 2023 season with their offense, their defense, and their clutch rating listed. Typically, teams are rated on a scale of 0 to 10. Really good offenses will be higher than 10. Really bad defenses will be higher than 10 as well. So basically, if you see something in green, that means they are really good at either offense or defense. If you see it in red, they were pretty lousy that season with their offense and defense. And the clutch ratings basically are also color-coded green and red. Higher clutch rating, better off they are. Now, the way you play the game in the very basic mode is you just add one team's offense and the other team's defense rating together. So, for example, if Arizona is playing Atlanta, you take Arizona's offense 5, you add it to Atlanta's defense 5. Arizona gets a rating of 10 for that game. Atlanta has a 9 offense, Arizona's 6 defense. You add them together, Atlanta gets a 15 rating for that game. So on the right side, you see how many runs are scored for that rating. So Arizona as a 10, let's say we roll a 26, they would get 3 runs, right? So I don't know if you can see my mouse, but 10 rating, a 26 dice roll gives you 3 runs. Atlanta, if they rolled 26 as well, their 15 rating gives you a 26 in the 4-run column. So Atlanta would win that game 4-3 if they both rolled 26. And so you can kind of see how, the average increases. So the average for that 10 rating, it's about 4.5 runs per game. For a 15, the average is about 5.5 runs per game. But you can also see a distribution. It's not a predetermined result. You could get lucky, you could get unlucky on that dice roll. And so that 10 rated team can score anywhere between 0 and 10 runs. And the 15 rated team would score between 1 and 12 runs for that particular game. So if it's a tie, if both teams had gotten 3 runs, basically we go into extra innings. And that's where the clutch rating comes into play. Each team would just roll 1 die, and you would add the value of your clutch rating. So if, again, Arizona versus Atlanta, Arizona and Atlanta both roll 3, but Arizona has a 2 clutch rating. Their final is 5, and Atlanta stays as a 3. So Atlanta would lose that game. Arizona would win that game. And so it's pretty simple. You can play a game in a couple of seconds, really. Now, the starting pitchers can affect the team defense ratings if you choose that as the option. And I highly recommend you play it that way because the game is designed to not use just the standard team defense, but really to lean into the differences in starting pitching for each game. So to do that, you would just replace the team defensive rating with the starter pitching rating. So if we look at Atlanta again, Spencer Strider, Bryce Elder, Charlie Morton, these guys have 3.32 as a rating. And if we go back, Atlanta's team defense was a 5. So instead of using the 5, you would use the starting pitcher's team rating. And these pitchers would be more likely to do better than Dylan Dodd, who's a 13, or Kyle Wright, who's an 11. And so this is kind of based off of their stats, right? So the runs allowed for Dylan Dodd and Kyle Wright are much higher than for Spencer Strider and Bryce Elder, right? So these ratings they look simple. There's a lot of detail that goes into this single rating. It's not just the starting pitcher; it's also the bullpen. It's how many innings the starter pitched, and so it looks like a simple rating, but there's a lot of thought that goes into what these ratings are. The as plays schedule is included in each of them, and so this example here shows a schedule for the 2023 season with the actual pitchers that pitched in each games. And like I said, the ratings are pre-calculated. So this now takes into account Milwaukee's offense and Marcus Stroman's pitcher's grade. So Milwaukee plus Marcus Stroman's pitcher grade equals 8. Chicago plus Corbin Burns' pitcher grade equals 7. So you don't have to do any math. You just look at the schedule, 8 to 7. You go back and you roll your dice and you look to see what you get, 8 versus 7, and that's the outcome of the game. To do it really fast, you roll 4 differently colored or sized dice, 2 for team 1, 2 for team 2, and you can really bang out each of these games in like 5 seconds each. You can play an entire day's worth of games in a few minutes. And I think what most people do is not just play through the schedule and just do this just as a FastScore game, but they use it as a companion game to a single team replay or a replay where they don't play every game with a different game, like a play-by-play game. So there are a few people that have YouTube channels that they use FastScore to go through all the games that they don't play on their YouTube channel. So I highly encourage people to look into it. It seems to be enjoyable. There's one guy, Robert Ladson, who calls it his 10-minute ticker. And he basically runs through each of the games through FastScore and plays out one with inside pitch in each of his episodes. So what I really wanted to point out, though, is that there's a lot of thought into how I generate these ratings. I say painstakingly designed for accuracy. That's just a slogan, but it's true. The way I do it is I calculate all the ratings on a spreadsheet from the raw stats. But it turns out that the raw stats aren't as accurate as they can be. So I do thousands of simulations and tweak the ratings. And it turns out that about a third to half of all the team and pitcher ratings have to be adjusted from what the original spreadsheet calculations show. And the reason for that is because of strength of schedule across different teams. Not every team plays the same distribution of teams. Some play a much easier schedule, some play a much harder schedule. And if you treat everybody equal with raw stats, you get biases in the results. So it really needs to be tweaked to get the accurate final results. So as an example here's the 2025 season. You can see a couple changes. Milwaukee went from a 7 offense to an 8 offense. New York from an 8 offense to a 9, etc. And you can see the changes here. But the end result is when I do my simulation on the spreadsheet, it's off by like 30 runs per season. Wins can be off by like 4 or 5 wins per team. But when I do the final, I'm really nailing the, on average, the runs scored within 2% of what's actual, the wins within 2 of actual. And so that's kind of shown here. So I've got a spreadsheet that runs 252 games or seasons and takes an average of 252 at a time. And so these columns here represent the offense, the number of runs scored for each of these teams. You can see this is what actually happened in the 2025 season. These are the number of runs that the team scored in the sim, and this is the difference on average, right? So you can see most of them are pretty close. We get a couple that are 17 off. I'd say that's acceptable. But some of them are within a single digit off. And the defense, because it can tweak the pitchers, the defense even closer than the offense. And so we're really kind of spot on when it comes to hitting the defense on average correctly. Team wins tend to be within 2 runs. Some of them are perfect. Some of them are a little bit off. Again, it's because of the schedule and the limitations of the game engine, but all within about 2 runs of actual. But the reality is that those are averages and dice are random. So if you just played one season instead of 252, you will see some variation, right? And so that's what this is shown here. I'm a scientist, so I'm used to box and whisker plots and statistical projections and things like that. But for people who don't know a box and whisker plot, basically this line in the middle is your average, 50% of results are right on this line. The box is a quartile, so the 25% and 75% are represented by the lower and upper end of that box. So 50% of the games would fall within this distribution right here. And then the whisker, so these lines with these horizontal lines, basically are the upper and lower boundaries of how many runs the team scored. So this is the Dodgers in 2025. Real life, they averaged 825 runs. 50% of the time, they're going to score, this narrow window around 825 runs scored. A few times they're outside of that, right? So these circles represent the highest and lowest ends, these outliers, if you will, if you speak in statistical terms. And so, of 252 season projections, this is the result for the Dodgers. The Diamondbacks look very similar, and Colorado is a historically bad team. They're down here, but the size of these boxes and the size of the whiskers are all pretty similar across all. Runs allowed, similarly tight. And if you look at the wins are a little bit more distributed because, dice are random. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a high roll against a really good team and you beat them. And sometimes you get a low roll against a really bad team and you lose to them. And so, even though the Dodgers had 93 wins, the 50% distribution is somewhere around 98 to, 80, 88. I'm not quite sure. I didn't look it up, but there is a distribution. It's a little bit wider. So the nice thing about it is it's not predetermined, that anything can happen in that season replay. It makes it pretty interesting as you play, but it's very likely that the Dodgers will come out on top and Colorado will come out very much at the bottom. In fact, there's a 0% chance that Colorado will do better than the Dodgers in any given season based on this distribution here. So that's kind of how FastScore Baseball works. I'll pause here if anybody wants to ask any questions. I apologize, I can't see anybody on the screen right now, so just speak up, please, if you have a question.
Hey, Brian, it's Andy Palomino. No question, but I did have the opportunity to purchase the 70s decade and the 80s decade. And I did a replay of the 1970s Orioles. And you are correct. It was on point. So I did it two ways. And if we have a little bit of time, I'll share my spreadsheet. But basically, I did it with the team ratings. So in 1970, the Orioles won 108 games. Fantastic team. So with the team ratings, it came out to be 111 wins. So 97% accuracy.
Nice.
And then I ran it also with the individual pitcher ratings. And that one came out to be 104 victories. So again, 97% accuracy, just a little bit on the lower end.
Yeah.
So you're on point. It's a very accurate fast score game. I did see a little bit more of a divergence in the runs, in the run differential. But again, to your point, it was only one season. If I ran more, I'm sure it would even out that distribution. But I was really impressed just how much on point it was with the with the real life totals.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I've done replays where things are a little surprising in some cases, but yeah, I mean the math is solid. And dice are random, and there's not much you can do about that. But that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, Derek and I talk about that all the time. Just people don't realize just exactly how much randomness there is in baseball. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. It's it's a pleasure hearing that, Andy. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do hear occasionally from customers and fans and friends who use it and give similar comments. There was one outlier that was on one of the YouTube channels where the 1988 Dodgers did really bad. And if you go back, they won the World Series that year. If you go back and you look at that team, they weren't really a great team. There was quite a bit of luck that got them into the World Series. And so so it may be challenging for some of these a little lesser teams to replicate just how well they did, but that's where the clutch rating comes in. That kind of picks up if a team kind of did better than expected, they overperformed for their runs and scored and runs against. That clutch rating is going to be a little bit higher typically. So, for example, 2023 Baltimore here with a clutch rating of 4. That means they kind of did better on their win-loss results than expected off of their runs. And, Chicago in 2023 has a -4 clutch. They actually did a little worse. And so this is knocking them down a bit with that clutch rating so that they mimic their win-loss.
Baseball Reference does a nice job because when you look up the the standings for any given year, they also give you the Pythagorean expected won and loss record. So it shows you just how lucky and unlucky some teams can get.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. There is a trend between clutch rating and that, but it's not a perfect fit. And again, it's because the schedule isn't balanced. So sometimes these teams have a harder schedule than other teams, and that clutch rating has to be boosted a bit because of that.
That makes sense. I did have one other quick question I wanted to ask you. I wanted to try to do a little bit, since I got the 70s decade, I wanted to try to do a quick tournament with the best teams of the 70s, but then I quickly realized, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like every season obviously is calibrated in terms of whatever the scoring environment was for that season. So doing a greatest teams tournament wouldn't necessarily yield accurate results because every year is the ratings, the scoring chart is calibrated to that year only.
Yeah, that's correct. What I've recommended to people who have asked me that in the past is the home team uses their runs.
That's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
So 81 games in one for the one team one year and the other 81 in the other year.
Yeah. That it's a fantasy anyway, right? So it's that's really hard to tie it to a specific outcome because you're doing something that nobody else has ever done, right? So
right, exactly.
So
I'm gonna give it a shot anyway. It's because I'm gonna try doing that 81 games on one side and 81 on the other.
Yeah, no, that's great. That sounds like fun. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now, if nobody has any other questions.
Hey, Brian, Phil Kaczynski here. I just had a quick comment and then a little question. I just want to say what a cool product this is. I love this because, and I've never used it before, but I was just getting excited hearing you talk about it because some of my favorite baseball games are really granular. Like one of my favorite ones is Dynasty League Baseball, which I feel has a ton of rolls, which is what I like. I like rolling as many dice as possible, but I feel like I would never complete a season replay with that game just because of life. And so I love this as just a way to maybe do like a single team replay, but still feel like I'm doing like the whole season for everybody. I think it's a great companion. So super cool. And then I just had a quick question. If you have time, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind going under the hood just a little bit and talking about like what exactly you looked at for the pitchers. The way you were saying you can use the pitchers to replace just like the average defense score. Like what were some of the metrics you looked at to determine what makes a really great pitcher versus a not so great pitcher?
Yeah, sure. No problem. Thank you. So if you look at the rating and you compare it to like the ERA, for example, you'll notice that it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. Some pitchers have a worse rating with a better ERA than other pitchers. And so the short answer to that is how deep they go into the game really matters a lot, because if you've got a pitcher that pitches 5 innings versus a pitcher that pitches 8 innings, that 8-inning pitcher has more control over that whole game. The 5-inning pitcher gives up 4 innings or more to their relief squad. So the bullpen is playing a much bigger role for those pitchers than a guy who completes a lot of games. So innings pitched per game is a very important factor in this rating. And that really comes into play, I guess, nowadays, that most pitchers don't last more than 5 innings. Some pitchers have like 1 game started, 2 games started, because they aren't really starters. They were a reliever that pitched a couple innings and then bowed out for another reliever. So in the modern seasons, that's more pronounced. In like the 60s, 70s, even 80s, pitchers really went deep into games. So the bullpen has less of an impact on that. You'll see more of a correlation between, for example, ERA and the raw rating for those pitchers. But because this is a total runs game, it's not just an earned runs game. So I don't use the ERA. I use total runs against for each of the pitchers to represent their rating. I don't want, some pitchers have artificially better ERAs because their defense was worse and they gave up a lot of errors, and those runs just didn't count against them. Here, unfortunately, they do count against the pitcher. If they've got a bad defense, it doesn't matter if it's earned or unearned. That rating is still going to take a hit. So that's kind of a little bit of a deep dive under the hood here.
Real quick, would the concept of like, I know this isn't happening that often, but teams are, I think they're calling them like openers. Like, would an opening pitcher kind of mess this up, or does the way you do it kind of account? Like, I was just wondering if like a guy who comes in, pitches an inning or two, and then leaves, does that throw things off, or because of the stuff you use, do you feel like that keeps it pretty on level?
Yeah, those openers were a big problem when they first started happening for me. But I basically kind of tweaked an algorithm that kind of separates out their starting and relief innings. And so, yeah, it is taken into account. I also, like, if you have a reliever with a pretty good ERA and he happens to start a game, he doesn't always get a great starting rating. Maybe that's influenced a little bit by APBA baseball because, they would have their D pitchers and A relievers. But it is kind of along those lines. So if you kind of look at the Boston here, Taylor Scott, he's rated 18 despite having a 4.91 ERA. And that's an example of how this opener effect shows up in the game.
Cool. Thank you for shedding some light on that, man.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. No problem. So I am going to show you real quick something that I've created in the past couple of, I've been working on it for a while now, but I've really made the final version of it just recently. And I call it my baseball standings tracker. It's a new spreadsheet that's going to be released on my website in February. I've given it to a few people already and gotten some feedback. So that helped to beta test it a bit. But basically how this works is you can enter any score from any quick play game, any full play game into the as played schedule. So you can enter the score of the game that you played, or you can use the actual game score from the actual MLB game. And the standings will automatically update. It's got features where you can print out all the scores. You can select only for a certain team, only the games that a certain team played, only the games that a certain pitcher pitched in. It has some graphs that can show kind of the wins over time and how within that division or that league, how the teams were jockeying for position over time. And what I think is really cool is I've created this new algorithm that estimates pitching stats, like actual wins, losses, ERA, and the leaders based just on the entered game score. So it's not based on the actual ERA, but it'll generate an estimated ERA. So even from FastScore, just rolling the dice like I described, we'll get pitching stats, win-loss, and estimated ERA for each of those pitchers. Within each of those, you can get your own. You can make your own schedule. If you're doing the best of the 70s team, you could kind of switch it up a bit, and not use the as played schedule. You can change it if you wanted. It'll be available for Excel and Google Sheets. And so what I'd like to do real quick is just take you through a demo of that. So let me pull up the Excel sheet. Hopefully you can see the Excel.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So obviously there's detailed instructions on how to use it. But what it looks like is this. There's a season schedule, which is basically the same as played season schedule that you find in all the FastScore baseball games. This is a 1980 season example. Each new date of a game is bolded and you get a line so you can separate out days pretty easily. Away home team is shown here, along with the actual score is here. The actual starters for each of the teams are here. And off to the right, it'll compile the standings and runs scored and runs against for each of the teams. And so basically what I've got is now this is showing the actual MLB win-loss, runs scored, runs against. If I wanted to, and let me show an example of, so this is basically the entire season. But if this is going to take a while. I don't want to take too long. It's not scanning quickly. But if I deleted quite a bit of these X's, it would change the standings in real time. So basically it would say, now games are only played up to October 4th, where before it was October 6th. The runs scored, runs against, the actual win-losses are adjusted. If I didn't want to use the actual score, so Toronto versus Seattle, 8-6, if I wanted to make a 0-0 or 0-1 score, I just type it in here. It changes it in here, and the standings and runs scored change in real time. So if you're playing FastScore or playing any other game, just type the results of your score in here, get rid of that X, and it won't use the actual score. It'll use your played score. You can make your own schedule. If you didn't want to have Toronto here, you could just choose the drop-down menu. It could be the Padres playing somebody else, right? And you can choose the starter out of the list. Now, let's say Dave LaPointe. He didn't play for the Padres, but whoever was pitching that game, you can change it. And all of this will change based on your new schedule that you input yourself. Runs scored will show here. So if I wanted to make my own schedule, it'll now show the Padres, which I just put in here, and Dave LaPointe, and show only the scores of those games. And you can just hit Control P, and it'll print out just that. All you have to do is hit print. You can print it to PDF. You can print it to a printer, whatever you choose. You can decide that you only want to show the results of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And so here's only the Dodgers scores. You can change that. Let's only show the Astros. And now it'll only show the Astros scores. So you can also do, looks like there's a problem. It's not changing here, so I apologize for that. I have to look into it. But yeah, these should all change to Boston Red Sox, or it's not, unfortunately not doing it now. If I wanted to choose a pitcher instead of Don Sutton, here it's showing Don Sutton had 21 team wins, 10 team losses. I understand why. sorry. If I change it to a specific team, now it'll show me all the Boston Red Sox. And so this is all spelled out in the instructions. Switch it to the White Sox. Now it shows all the White Sox games. Tells the White Sox wins, losses, runs allowed. If I change this now to pitcher, now it's only going to show Don Sutton's games, right? And Don Sutton is here, shows team wins, team losses, runs allowed. His estimated pitcher stats for that season say despite 21 team wins, he only got 12 personal wins. 10 team losses, he only got 6. And it runs per game 2.58. His ERA is 2.02. So it's an estimation based on what they've actually done. Here's Frank Tanana, 15 team wins, 16 team losses, but his record is 11-12 with a 3.94 ERA. So there's an algorithm that's running behind the scenes that kind of remembers stuff and calculates this on the fly. Steve Stone, everybody remembers him. He's a Cy Young winner in 1980 with 25 wins, which is why he won it. So it estimates 25 wins for Steve Stone. Pitcher stats alphabetically, it'll show all the pitchers, games started, teams won, team losses, and then the pitchers' estimated wins, estimated losses, estimated ERA. It'll also show pitching leaders. So if you wanted to sort by estimated ERA, Don Sutton was the best. Carlton had a good one. Britt Burns was up there. But we can sort it for something else. We can do estimated pitcher wins. And we'll see that Steve Stone got 25 estimated pitcher wins, Carlton 23, Tommy John 22, etc. So this is not based on the actual stats. It's based off of what stats are inputted from your gameplay. And all these numbers will be modified to give you a little more fuller experience on a quick play game, so you can kind of see how the pitchers did. And FastScore Baseball kind of allows you to do that because you've got the starting pitching making a big difference in how the game is played and how the outcome comes out. So this is a really good companion for FastScore. It also includes a graph. Obviously, you can enlarge these and look at them, but it's over time, National League East wins. You can see how the team fared. So yellow kind of came from in the middle of the season, wasn't anywhere close to the top, and they came up to win. I assume yellow is the Phillies, and it is. So you can kind of see how your team performed over time graphically. So yeah, I'll just pause there. And let me know what you think. And Andy, if you wanted to show your replay results.
Oh yeah,
great. Thanks.
By the way, this is a great add-on. I love this. Yeah, this is excellent.
Yeah, thanks. It took a bit of time. It took a lot of thought and some work. So I'm really happy to be able to bring it out there for people to enjoy.
Absolutely. Let me see if I have my little spreadsheet open. I'll show you guys real quick what I was talking about. So just confirming, can you see my Excel sheet?
Yep.
Excellent. So you can see that the real team record for 1970 was 108-54. So when I ran the the results using just the team ratings, it came out to 111-51, which is still 97% accurate. And then I did it all over again with the actual pitcher ratings and 104-58. Any way you cut it, it's a fantastic record and only slightly off from the real world results. So that was really outstanding. And again, the only thing that I noticed a bit of a differential was in this is the actual real life run differential. So a little bit of a difference on both the team ratings and the pitcher ratings. But again, and again, Derek can attest to this. I always talk about randomness in baseball. If I ran this sim another 10 times, these numbers I'm sure would smooth out quite a bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. And what's really interesting is even with this n = 1, your runs against is pretty much spot on.
Absolutely.
572 versus
Yeah,
574, 560. That's
correct.
impressive.
Correct. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that. And so, and
Great.
then I'm gonna take a stab at trying to figure out the best team of the 70s. And the reason I thought twice about it was, when you look at the team ratings, if you just look at the ratings, you already know pretty much who the best team is. But I'm still gonna play just for fun. 81 games one year, 81 games another year. We'll see what comes out of it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, sounds like fun. I
Yeah.
think it should work. I mean, if you do, home team using their year for the runs chart, I think it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, I think so. So it'll be fun to see whether the 76 Reds turn out to be the best team, which I'm thinking either the 75 or 76 teams will be the better teams, but we'll see. But
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. It was I mean, kudos to you for because again, on the face of it, you look at it and you go, "Wow, how is this possible that this is actually going to work?" And it does. So
Yeah, with
yeah.
such a simplistic rating system, absolutely. That's the beauty of it. Again, simple and accurate. That's what I always go for.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if there wasn't any variance, what would be the point of doing it, right? You want
Exactly.
some randomness in there. You want, yes, you're probably 2025 Rockies are not going to win no matter what you do, right?
Yes.
But for the most part, yeah, if you have a bunch of teams clumped around, between 80 and 85 wins, or some of these seasons recently with like the American League East, I think again, there's usually like one outlier team that's just everybody else is beating up on, like the White Sox recently, and my Angels are perennial underperformers the last decade or so. But yeah, you still, like, when you go into a season, you want to have a chance of, okay, even if it's like a 2% chance, but somehow they might win it, right?
Another interesting thing is, what if you made a trade? What if you took a pitcher from one team, popped it into your team, and see how that gets, how that changes the outcome, right? So
It's interesting too that you brought up the point of strength of schedule, because I don't think that's taken into account often. And I've done some APBA computer replays of greatest team tournaments. And some of these historical teams with huge run differentials, I'm thinking specifically, I think of the 55 Dodgers, for some reason that comes to mind, didn't really perform well against some other teams that are historically great, even though their run differential was better. And part of it, I think, is because of what you just said. They probably beat up on a bunch of really weak teams to amass that huge run differential.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I don't want to disparage, but I think a lot of games don't take that into account.
Yeah.
And it would be great if they started to, because I think it would enhance accuracy. I know Replay Baseball does. Pete takes a lot of time with his ratings, and he plays them over and over. And now he's got his computer game, which makes it really easy to check for accuracy. So he's tweaking. And sometimes you get a card that just doesn't look right, and he'll say, yeah, it is. I ran the replay. It's the right rating. So.
I think recently with the interleague play and unbalanced schedule and everything, that gets even that much harder, right?
Yeah, the 2020 season was probably the worst, because that was just a weird. I don't even remember how they did it, but it was so weird, and that might have been the opposite, actually, right? It was just like the same 8 teams played each other or something in 2020. I can't remember that far back. I've forgotten.
I was going to say, I think I'm trying to block that out, but but such a small sample size too. All right, 60 games, anything could happen,
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anybody else have questions? You can come off mute, throw them in the chat if you got anything.
I just hope you do more seasons, Brian. Some of those, some of those older seasons prior to the 50s. That'll be fun to see, like, some of those Yankee teams or some of those Dead Bowl era teams. That would be fun to see that.
Yeah, it's in the works. I'm juggling a lot of things right now. But yeah, I'm hoping to put out at least 2 or 3 new FastScore baseballs every year. Um, most people don't play 30s and 40s, so it's not a big priority. But yeah, I agree.
I was going to ask you how you just working your way backwards, or are you determining like, okay, well, people would buy the 27 season versus 1913 or something.
Yeah, actually, the reason I chose the 7 pre-1950s is because Pete Ventura had them on his replay site. And so it was just a compliment to replay baseball at the time. But that was probably in the 2010s when I made those. I haven't really looked to see what's available through replay now. I think he has quite a few more. But
if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, you could do those, the like 1870s seasons that, there's some teams that barely completed the first month of the schedule, and it was just all over the place, right?
I actually made for a different game 1871 with the Troy Haymakers because it's a local team. It's right. I'm in Albany, New York, so Troy is just right down the road. It's fun looking at those guys. It's a very different type of baseball.
Have you given any thought to printing up or creating seasons of either Negro leagues, Japanese baseball, anything like kind of off outside of the major leagues?
Actually, I haven't yet, but yeah, that would be interesting. I don't. If there were enough people that were interested, I would do it. But yeah, I don't. I guess part of it is the question of, is there enough of the stats that I need, and are they accurate? I know MLB, I can trust it. Modern minors, I can trust. Not sure about the rest.
Yeah, definitely. You'd have issues with the schedule there too. There was no real set schedule. There's a lot of barnstorming, and yeah, I could see where that would be really problematic.
Yeah.
But still interesting nonetheless, if you could somehow figure out a way to do it, right?
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be super cool if you could do it with the Japanese teams. That's just a sweet spot for me. But like you said, like I don't know if you'd be able to get all the stats you need, especially for like maybe for the team ones, but for the pitchers that might be kind of tough, right?
Yeah, I mean, Phil, if you have access to those stats, let me know.
I have no idea. I'll be honest. I don't even know I don't even know what Baseball Reference tracks and how far back for like NPB teams. That would be something cool to look at, I guess.
Yeah.
I think one of the selling points, though, Brian, for some of those older seasons is the idea that you discussed about being able to do a single team replay, but still do all the teams.
Yeah.
So a lot of gamers are interested in doing replays of the 27 Yankees or the 1909 Tigers, but it would be nice if they could also play out every other game, which is really where your game would come into play.
Yeah, for sure. I don't remember which seasons I have before 1950. It would make sense that 27 is an option because of that, but I'll take a look. I just don't remember.
Cleveland Spiders would be interesting, right?
1894, right? Yeah.
They went like 20 games or something. I forget what the number was, but some ridiculous number. They wound up. There were a number of teams back then where people owned majority in multiple teams, and they would just shuffle players from one team to the other, so they could kind of stack their teams.
Yeah. I think that team was dismantled during the season, if I remember correctly, too.
Yes. Yeah. All right, guys. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Anybody? All right. Brian, we really appreciate you coming on.
Sure.
It's been extremely insightful. I haven't played any of the quick play, and actually my sweet spot is more like the computer sims. So even the tabletop baseball, I'm just kind of recently dipping my toes in on that. But I wasn't quite sure the mechanics of how these games are played. So I appreciate the you know going into depth and explaining how you arrived at this system, and it does look like it really works well. Like you said, yeah, with a computer game, yeah, could I fast sim an entire season pretty quickly? Yes. Right. With a tabletop game, rolling the dice, like you said, 30 minutes a game, maybe times 2,000 some odd games in a current season, it would take a lot of dedication and a lot of free time to complete a season with one of those games. I'm sure it's been done.
It would take being retired, basically. Yes.
There you go. There you go. So, well,
yeah.
So
and
if you want to you want to get working on that, Andy, now. So.
Yeah, I do play some computer games, but I work on a computer all day long. I don't want to play on a computer all night long. So
yeah,
it is nice to have the dice, the tactile feel of the dice.
Yep.
Yeah, it's.
I think it's one of those things, again, it's like your first, the first team that you start to follow. It's kind of that sweet spot around 10, 12 years old somewhere. And I just started, I got a Commodore 64 back in the mid 80s and micro league baseball. And I just kind of went off in that direction. If somebody had sat me down to play, Strat or APBA or something at that time, might have ended up, playing tabletop games full time. So.
Yeah, I get it.
All right. Andy, I don't know if do you want to do you want to do an announcement on the research committee project?
Oh yeah,
and then I'll do the upcoming meetings.
Yeah, it's going pretty well. So we, as you guys know, we took on a project where we're really requesting from folks out there in the gaming community to help us by logging all the different replays that they come up with, and it could be single team replays, entire seasons. I haven't seen any well, actually, I've seen a couple of single player replays as well. But basically, if it's a replay, we want to know about it and we want to log on our email as well for this project, just to spread the word to the game users that that we want to know about their replays. So far it's going well. I mean, we're up to 80. We were lagging there around 20 for a little while, but after we started reaching out to the game developers, it's really picked up the pace quite a bit. So, but if anybody on this call or anybody that watches this recording afterwards, we have a blog post which I think Derek and I published on November 19th that has all the instructions and the link to the Google Sheet to record the replay. So if you just forward that blog, that link to that blog, it'll have all the instructions to anybody that is interested in logging their replays. So yeah, so far so good, and we'll do a little bit more direct contact with some of the replayers. We'll start to do that as well. But overall, I think I'm happy. 80 plus replies is good.
Andy,
I was thinking I can share my screen out and maybe just show the the link here. Let's see. Bring that up. Bear with me one sec here. I think I've got too many windows open here. Can you see my screen there?
I see the screen, but not the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it won't be the spreadsheet. I was just going to show where on the page you can go to get to the blog post here. I've got, looks like I've got to hide some windows here so I can see it. All right, so if you go to our website, which is saberbaseballgaming.com, and then scroll down a little bit to, let's see, should be under recent posts here. Just do a view all. And that was the other piece. There's two pieces to this. One is the cataloging the particulars of your replay, and the second part is to actually post an article about them. So, all right, my machine's lagging quite a bit here, so.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick on my side here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let's see if I can stop the screen share on my end here.
So of the 80 responses we've had a pretty good variety of games. Obviously, APBA, Strat, Pursue the Pennant. There we go. I think that's yours. Yeah. I have an entry for your game, Brian, which is the one I'll be doing.
Cool.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know, my my machine hung up there for a couple minutes.
Yep, I just brought it up there. So yeah, this is it here. And to Derek's point, so basically this piece here takes you to a Google form where you'll be able to log all the different details of your replay, the game you're using, the year you're using, and what different parameters you're using. Are you going to be the manager for any of the teams, all the teams, some of the teams, etc.? And then once that Google form is submitted, it'll take you straight into a Google spreadsheet that will actually list all the entries so everybody can have visibility to the different games that are being used and the different replays that are planned. But essentially, anybody watching this meeting, if you wanted to share this with anybody, all you'd have to do is just copy this page, which will direct them to all this information, and they'll be able to log their replays via this entry here primarily, and then it'll feed the Google spreadsheet, and everybody will be able to see the results. And I look at this almost every day because I do like to follow up with whoever has submitted an entry. So far, we're getting some pretty good participation. Phil, I'm sorry, I think we might have cut you off. You might have had a comment at some point.
No, I jumped in too early. Hey, I was just going to ask. So I've got two on there that I'm working on, but I actually switched platforms. Like I had been doing some of my stuff on Substack, and just kind of got over that, and so I'm doing everything on WordPress now. And I guess my question was, but I think you kind of answered already, but I just want to make sure you don't want our article that would like go here until the replay is entirely done, correct?
Correct. I would prefer that
Okay.
you finish the article, and then at that point, if you don't already have an account on the website, you create an account, and then you go to the bottom of the homepage and use the contact us for option to request contributor access. And I think once you do that, Derek gets a message, and Derek gives that individual contributor access, and you're free at that point to post your article.
Okay, that makes sense because I'm doing the Nolan Ryan 87 replay, and so like
yeah.
on my blog, I'm trying to do it by month. But then I started thinking, I was like, he doesn't want a month like every month. This should probably just wait till it's all the way done so you can compare the entire thing. So
Yeah, it'd
cool.
be
That
cool.
makes sense.
Yeah. Now, obviously, once you're done with the season, you could put as much detail as you want into our blog post, but it's probably better if you wait till you're all done.
No, that tracks. That makes sense. Thanks,
Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So again, so far looking pretty good. I'm looking to at some point soon cross that 100 entry barrier, and I'll feel good about that. So, but it's going well. And then my grand design would be, once we feel like we've saturated as many entries as we possibly can get, then I'll try to create some type of a article where I'll compare some of the results and see how statistically accurate they are to real life. Now, not everybody wants to share that data, but I always ask folks if they would like to share it, or again, if they don't share it directly, I can also pull it from whatever blog post they publish. But so far, I've had enough of a sample size that I'll be able to come up with a reasonable number of comparisons. So I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I'm really happy with how that's
Yeah.
progressing, and again, our intent isn't to pit different games against each other and say this is more accurate than this one or anything like that. But it is interesting to see, like, if you did a season replay, well, how close did the standings come out? How close were the team or the league totals versus real life? Just again, there's a lot of randomness. It's not.
Exactly.
We're talking about a single replay. We're not talking that we ran 100 or 1,000 replays of a given year or anything. So, kind of a little bit take the results with a grain of salt, but. And even to share that the league leaders from your given replay was here was the actual batting leaders and ERA leaders from that year, and here's how my replay played out.
Correct. Yeah, and obviously it depends on what parameters you throw into the mix. For example, we have Glenn Evans, who's published quite a few out of the park replays on our site, where what he did is he started in 1909 and he made the assumption that right from the get-go we were going to be integrated, so no color barrier, which is fascinating when you think about what kind of an impact that could have had if it had really happened, right? And what kind of an impact it's having on some of the team standings. So those are some of the the little quirks or little changes that some of the users do that makes this really interesting.
Good deal. So we've got a couple upcoming meetings scheduled. February meeting is going to be on the 17th, 8 p.m. Eastern, and that's with Rick Shostak and Sullivan Beck. They are the COO and CTO of Ballpark Baseball, and the original version was developed by Dr. Charles Sidman, published in 1971, and a recently released version 3. So they're going to share what some of the enhancements are for that game, and I'm assuming going back from version 1 to version 3 and showing what the differences are. And then on March 10th, we have Robert Gamble. That's also at 8 p.m. Eastern, and he is the designer of Pitchers Count Baseball. So if you want to go ahead and register for those meetings, again, go up on our website. There's the upcoming events list. And that's all I've got. So unless anybody has any last minute questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Brian, again, really appreciate you coming on, explaining FastScore Baseball. If you want to plug your album from the 2000s, feel free to do so.
Sure. Triangle Paradise.
Okay.
It's the name of the band, Triangle Paradise.
That's a great name.
Where can we find that?
Triangleparadise.com.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right, we'll check it out. All right. And FastScoreGames.com, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Hey guys, well, thanks for joining us tonight. And You guys have a good evening and stay warm out there.
Thank you. Great job, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks again, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.